If you study the rise of Donald Trump and you study what matters to American voters, it makes sense. And if other candidates wanted to be at the top of the pile, well, they would have been listening. And believe me, there's some stuff that is not on this list that we're going to talk about in a minute. But check this out. Look at what concerns American voters and then think of what Donald Trump says. What's number one? Terrorism. And what does he say? We're going to knock the hell out of ISIS. We're going to destroy them. We're going to do it right. We're going to take their oil. Next, dissatisfaction with government. What is Trump saying? That our government is led by people who are inept, who are unqualified, who couldn't get a job in the private sector, that the American voter is being taken advantage of, okay? So, number one and number two, Trump is beating like a dirty rug. Number three, the economy in general. And then number five, unemployment jobs. What does he say? I'm a businessman. We're going to have such great deals. I'm going to be the best jobs creating president that heaven has ever created. He's hammering on these things. And because he's a multi-billionaire, well, he's got some credibility. He probably could negotiate better deals than Obama and his minions. He probably could create an atmosphere in which jobs came back to America. All right, that was number 4 and 6. Let's take a look at, that was number 3 and 5. Let's take a look at number 4, guns. If people in California and San Bernardino have been able to shoot back in the other direction, if people in Paris, which has the toughest gun laws in the world, France, which has the toughest gun laws in the world, if they had been able to shoot bullets back in the other direction, there would have been a lot fewer dead people. He's hammering on these issues. Next, ethics, moral, religious decline. He gets pretty low marks on that one. Pretty low marks. But it played well for Ted Cruz in Iowa. It'll play well for Cruz in South Carolina. It'll play well for Ben Carson in South Carolina. Those issues will play well where there's pockets of voters that have a more astute grasp of the things that matter. And I will return to this. Let's keep looking. Next, crime and violence. I would lump that under gun control in part, and I would lump it under terrorism in part. But the truth of the matter is, now we're starting to get way down on the pole. Look at the situation in Iraq, ISIS. Well, that's poorly said because terrorism and ISIS should be linked together. In Iraq, Trump wins there because he said, I'm the only guy who said we shouldn't be going into Iraq. Immigration, illegal aliens, 5% right now. That number was up substantially before the attacks in San Bernardino and Paris, but Trump was way ahead of the curve there and said we're going to build a wall. So he's winning on that one. How about on national security? I'm going to build the biggest, best, strongest military that America has ever had. No one will dare to mess with us. He's hitting that one. Poverty, hunger, homelessness, almost never addressing it. Race relations, racism. He says, I have a great relationship with the blacks. So he hasn't done all that well on that level. Although, interestingly, there are a significant number of African Americans that are showing themselves as Trump supporters, which has Hillary really nervous and should have Bernie Sanders nervous as well. So as you study this Gallup poll, it's pretty easy to see why Donald Trump is doing so well. And there's one other thing. It's not an armchair discussion. We're not sitting, smoking our pipe, discussing the problems of terrorism and the issue of gun control and whether or not Obama is going to take our guns. No. He's got the edge in his voice like a bunch of guys sitting around at a bar shooting pool. And what about those ISIS people? We're going to knock the crud out of them. He speaks about these issues with pathos, with passion. So he's credible. The ones that he doesn't even talk about is probably to his benefit because he couldn't say them with real credence, with real credibility. So it's not a mystery to see why Donald Trump is doing so well when you look at the issues that matter with American voters. He's spot on most of these, and he says them like a man who would live and die on that hill. And that's why people are flocking to him, on the Republican side at least. And that's why I think he's going to win the presidency. I'll be right back.